Today I got 3 new critters. I tried to measure them, but only one would hold still. That one ended up being about 2 centimeters long. I didn't get the chance to measure the other 2 critters, but I can see that they were significantly smaller than the first critter. I played with them for a few minutes and noticed that they were really active. They kept trying to crawl off the piece of paper that I had them on, so I decided to put them in their container so that they wouldn't get lost. As soon as I placed them inside the container, they burrowed into the oatmeal and disappeared from sight. I also observed a few night crawlers after I received my critters. I noticed that my critters are definitely smaller and they moved using their tiny legs. The night crawlers, on the other hand, have no legs and are very long and slimy.
My critters have never been really active since the day I got them, and I have always wondered if it had anything to do with the fact that they were in my room, which is a little darker space by my drawer. I decided for one of my experiments I would try and see if the light would make any difference by moving them to a space with more direct sunlight. I moved it to a space that had a bigger window and had direct sunlight most of the day. Whenever I would check on them by the sunlight, they were never really out, and most of them tended to be at the bottom of the jar. And whenever I would check up on them before I turned on the lights in my room, they were at the top wandering around or closer to the top of the oatmeal. So I came to the conclusion that they may not be big fans of sunlight or any other type of light. We're coming towards the end of our journey, and with my new set of critters, one of my critters has now turned into a really dark brown color, and I have another one of my critters that has now turned into the cocoon stage, and one of my critters that is still looking like the critter that I got when I got new critters. And I was actually wondering whether or not the surface the beetle is on affected how active it was. My beetles are pretty active the beetle that I have is pretty active in the oatmeal, but I wonder if I took him out of the habitat and put him on a different surface, whether or not he would be a little or more active. So I decided that I would try to place him on a glass surface, on a wood table, and on the carpet. And I was going to time him about 2 minutes in order to give him an opportunity to explore and see if it made any difference. Now, after placing him on the glass, he moved very frantically, almost like in panic. He, was trying to move slowly, and I guess once he realized he was only staying in one spot, began to move his legs a lot faster and kind of kept going in circles, almost like it was difficult for him to travel on that surface. I moved him onto the carpet, and he was a little more calm when it came to crawling and explored a larger area and never stopped crawling, so it was easier for him to travel and was more at ease with his moving. And finally, I moved him to a wood area. And in the wood area, he was moving pretty slow and traced the same path. So he would go one way and then kind of walk back the same path, and then he would kind of stop for a little bit and continue to walk again. So it does seem that the surface he is on does have some effect on the way that he moves, because on the glass he was struggling to move and began to move a lot quicker than he was moving on the wood and the carpeted area.
For my third experiment, I decided to see whether my critters preferred a wet environment or a dry environment. My hypothesis stated if the critters are placed in a wet and dry environment, the critters will crawl over to the wet side. I gathered a rectangular plastic tray, paper towels, a spray bottle filled with water, a timer, and critters. First, I grabbed a paper towel and sprayed both sides of the towel with the spray bottle. Then I wrung out any excess water on the paper towel. I placed the wet paper towel on one side of the rectangular plastic tray. I placed the dry paper towel on the opposite side of the tray. I grabbed my critters and placed them in the middle of the tray. I set the timer for 5 minutes. I observed and recorded my data and repeated the procedure 3 more times.